Having your personal information stolen unviolated is perhaps one of the worst nightmares for anyone. With the accessibility of the internet, it is easier than ever for hackers to steal your identity, address, your purchases, and more. Hello, my name is Chelsea Zhao, and I am an informatics college student. In this video, I'll walk through 3 of such breaches through an ethical lens. Coming up first, we have the Microsoft data breach of January 2020. Microsoft Corporation is a technology company that produces customer software, consumer electronics, computers, and other services. Microsoft posted the summary of an investigation into a breach of their internal customer support database in their blog. In the investigation, the Microsoft team claims that misconfigured security rules had exposed data of their network security group as early as December 5, 2019. Even though the corporation claims no harm is done, as they state, our investigation confirmed that the vast majority of records were cleared of personal information in accordance with our standard practices. A Forbes analysis claims otherwise. David Winder, the cybersecurity reporter for Forbes, wrote that as many as 250 million customer records were exposed online. Winder states that, according to researchers, plain text data including email addresses, IP addresses, geographical location, and more, even as Microsoft claims that personally identifiable information was redacted. This may seem like no big deal in the overall scheme of things, but when you consider that Microsoft support scams are pretty rampant, it doesn't take a genius to work out how valuable such information would be to the fraudsters carrying out such attacks, Winder writes. As an informatics student studying ethics, here are my takeaways. Microsoft is overconfident in assuming that no accounts were compromised. Even if directly identifiable information such as names, phone numbers were redacted, the breached data can still pose serious threats to the individual accounts compromised. According to George W. Reynolds in his book Ethics in IT, identity theft is theft of personal information, which is then used without the owner's permission. The information includes name, social security number, credit card number that are often used to commit fraud or other crimes. Data breach is the unintended release of sensitive data or the access of sensitive data by unauthorized individuals. In this context, though identities such as names were redacted, other identifiable information, such as IP addresses and physical addresses, are enough to pose serious threat in our data-inundated world. Oftentimes, a person's name and other information are directly linked with their address. This small leak of information can lead to serious exposure of a person's privacy down the road. Are you on Facebook? Who isn't? Meta Platforms Incorporated, previously known as Facebook Incorporated, boasts over 1.93 billion users worldwide. On December 2019, 267 million Facebook users' names and phone numbers were reported to have been leaked online. According to a security researcher named Bob Diachenko, this data was accessible in an unprotected format and sent to other hacker platforms. Social media trend reporter John Brandon from Forbes notes that this data can give scammers opportunities for elaborate campaigns. Having this data means scammers can start new phishing scams and correlate the data from the phone record to Facebook user profiles, Brandon notes. According to Brandon, the data was likely accessed through an API that gives the hacker access to private data such as friend lists, groups, and photos. As an informatics professional, my takeaway is that Facebook's lack of security has caused plagues of scam calls and likely financial loss from its users. Simply by having the most updated phone numbers and names, the scammers can easily target the users for fraudulent calls. Joseph Kiza prefaces the connection between information and individuals in his book Ethical and Secure Computing. Kiza gives this phenomenon the name information matching. The danger with information matching, notes Kiza, is that there's no limit to what one can do with the collected information, and no one knows what the profiles built from the matched information will be used for and by whom. Placed in this context, Facebook users had unwillingly submitted their phone numbers to random people on the internet who can use their information for any crimes. The Forbes article mentions the potential threat of phishing emails or calls, but the consequences could be worse. This massive amount of data could be sold to telemarketers who can match the 256 million profiles to existing public databases to find out more personal information, or even consumer habits of the Facebook users they had targeted. And finally, our last breach takes us to the beginning of the stay-at-home orders. We had all witnessed the boom of the video conferencing software Zoom, which sees its user population and stock skyrocket in 2020. However, more devices connect to the web also means building scalable cybersecurity measures, which is a lesson Zoom took the hard way. On April 2020, more than 500,000 Zoom accounts went up for sale on the dark web. According to Isabel Hamilton from Business Insider, the accounts were sold for less than a penny or given freely on forums for Zoom bombing, where malicious individuals disrupt Zoom calls uninvited and post graphic content. The content compromised including email addresses, passwords, personal meeting URLs, and meeting passcodes. Hamilton reports that hackers use password email combination from Zoom to try to log into the user's other accounts. This means that if you use the same password in multiple platforms, you could be compromised. As an informatics professional, this is my takeaway. With how ubiquitous the online cyber attacks are, I am not so surprised about the 2020 data breach. However, I do admit that I am shocked at how cheap our rights to privacy have become. Can you imagine? Out of all the measures we have taken for being left alone, accounts and names are still being sold for less than $1 on the dark web. According to Reynolds in his book, Ethics in IT, the right of privacy is the right to be left alone, the most comprehensive of rights, and the rights most valued by free people. While in this case, if hackers on the internet are selling a dozen Zoom accounts for less than $1, then I presume our rights are not that valuable, according to these internet companies. Indeed, as of all the previous cases on data breaches have proven, privacy has increasingly become a commodity in the present era. Microsoft, Facebook, and Zoom, all of the companies mentioned in this video are big brand names. If large corporations with a team of cybersecurity professionals are committing ethical faux pas, it's hard to imagine smaller enterprises we now go to for our daily needs. Hospitals, televisions, social media, all of them have a stake in our data. So it's time for us, the users, to demand stricter cybersecurity measures. The bottom line is, our rights of privacy is worthy to be defended and cannot be compromised for any sum of money, much less than 1 penny. Thank you so much for watching this production. This video is brought to you by an informatics student from the class Code and Power, taught by Professor Paul Klein. This is a summary of my case studies on the data breaches of 2020. Based on my learning from the course so far, I have gained a deeper understanding of privacy and ethical standards in the cyber world, and a deeper appreciation for safer navigation in an increasingly digitalized society. The sources referenced in this video include Forbes, Business Insider, Ethics in Information Technology by George Reynolds, copyright 2019, and Joseph Miga Kisa's Ethical and Secure Computing, a concept module, 2nd edition. This is also my first ever YouTube video, so if you can comment and like the video or subscribe